Today, I'm going to show you how to take any 2D image and convert it into a 3D model to create this professional commercial logo animation. It'll all be for free in Blender with no plugins. My name is DJ from Eternal Visuals. Let's not waste any time. Let's get into it. First thing we need to explain is what type of 2D image this is. This is a scalable vector graphic, also known as an SVG. What this means is that it's an image file that uses points on a grid system rather than pixels to create a design, so that no matter how large or small you scale the design, there is never a loss in quality. If you have a JPEG or a PNG, there are free converter websites as well as methods in Adobe Illustrator to convert your image to a vector. These methods work best with high-resolution images and high contrast, preferably black and white. The SVG file we're using today is free off of Wikipedia. Once you download it to your local computer, you can open up Blender. I'm using version 4.2.5 LTS. We will delete the default cube, but we will leave the default camera and light. Hit number 7 on your keyboard to make your perspective top-down. Then hold Ctrl-Alt numpad 0 to align your perspective with the camera view. Now let's import our SVG, but if you don't see the import option, you can go to Edit, Preferences, and under Add-ons, you can search for Scalable Vector. Click the checkbox, and now we can go to File Import. You should be able to see the Scalable Vector Graphic option. Navigate to where your image is saved, then click Import. Use your scroll wheel to zoom in and click and drag to select your entire logo. Right-click and select Join or Ctrl-J. Then right-click again and select Set Origin to Geometry. Then hit G, then X or Y on the X and Y axis to move your logo to the center origin point. Then hit S on your keyboard to scale your logo to fit properly in the camera view. Then right-click, Ctrl-A, and select all transforms to make sure the proportions scale properly. And under the curves properties, you can scroll down to the geometry settings. Increase the extrude by 0.005. Then hit 3 on your keyboard to change perspectives to the side view. Select your logo and then hit G then Z to move the logo up along the Z axis so that almost 99% of the object is above the surface line. Hit Shift A to add a new object. Select Mesh then Plane. Hit S on your keyboard and drag and scale until it passes the border of the camera view. Increase the X axis by hitting S then X and then drag. Hit Ctrl A again to adjust all transforms. If you hold Z and move your mouse cursor up, you should move into render mode and be able to see a 3D pixelated shadow. We want our light to be high quality for this render, so in the render tab, change the render engine to cycles and the device to GPU. In the color management settings, change the view transform to filmic. Now let's adjust our light. It should already be set to a point light, so we're going to move our light using G then X and Y to move it directly above our logo. Make sure to move the light a surface distance away from the plane. To light more of our scene, select the Light tab and adjust the radius to 12 meters and the power to 100,000 watts. Then using G, then Z to bring it down to almost surface floor level to get dramatic shadows. Now let's add some color. I pulled Nissan's new primary red from their official brand guide online. I'll leave a link in the description. Select your logo and go to the Shading tab. X off the default material attached to the logo and hit New. In the principled BSDF, select the color swatch. Hit the Hex tab and paste the Nissan red hex code. The shadows are too dark, so we're going to add some properties to our shader to control that. Hit Shift A and search for the Light Path node, Mix Shader node, and the Transparent BSDF shader node. Once you added all of them, link your IS shadow ray to the mix shader. Then make your top shader your principled BSDF, and your transparent BSDF later as your bottom shader. Then add your mix shader to the material output. Then adjust your transparent BSDF to around 0.5 value. Now let's animate our light. From your top view by hitting 7 and scrolling out, hit Shift A and add a circle, and increase the scale until it intersects with the light. Select the light, then shift-click the circle, then right-click Parent Object. Make sure your timeline is at frame 1. With the circle selected, right-click insert keyframe, then move 50 frames on the timeline and hit RZ to rotate the circle 45 degrees. Then right-click, insert keyframe. If you're in older versions, it will say rotation. If you need to, in the graph editor, zoom out and highlight both your start and end keyframe. Right-click, interpolation mode, Bezier. Now select your left arm of the end keyframe and pull it while holding Shift to the 20 frame mark. This should give us a nice smooth exit movement for our light. Now let's export. For start and end frames, we will leave the start frame at 1 and change the end frame to 100. For this sequence, we are going to leave the resolution and frame rate at 1920 by 1080 and at 24 frames per second, and denoise with the optics. This will only show up if you have an NVIDIA graphics card. If not, just leave the normal default. For samples, we're going to set them to 64. For file type, we're going to export a PNG sequence. For color, choose RGB, and color depth, make sure to select 16-bit. Under output, select the folder icon and create a render folder. Then hit accept. Now we can hit render animation. My computer was rendering about 3 seconds per frame. If your computer is taking longer, you can always play with the sample rate. Once your render completes, let's open up After Effects. Create a new project, then File Import. Navigate to your render files. Click your first frame, then scroll all the way down to Shift select your final frame. Check off PNG sequence, then import. Once we import, we need to make sure that the sequence is at the correct frame rate. So right-click your sequence, then Interpret Footage, Main. Then change the default frame rate from 30 to 24. Then right-click your sequence again, and select New Comp from the selection. Now let's add some final touches. With your PNG sequence selected, hit S on your keyboard, and on frame 1, make a scale keyframe. Then move to the end of your clip and increase the scale by 110. Go to the Layer tab, New Adjustment Layer. With the layer selected, go to your Effects tab, then Stylize CC Vignette. The default settings are perfect as is. And there you have it. This Nissan commercial logo is so simple but so elegant. I had such a blast trying to figure out how to break down and show you guys this process. So I hope you learned something today and can't wait to see you in the next one.